A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, Star Wars was in theaters. But now, for the first time since Rise of Skywalker in 2019, Star Wars is back on the big screen. The long-awaited cinematic follow-up to the successful TV show, The Mandalorian and Grogu, has hit theaters. So of course, I went and saw it right away. So I am here to share my review, explore some of the critic reviews, and tell you whether or not I think it's worth a watch. As of right now, The Mandalorian and Grogu is sitting at a 63% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and an 88% audience score. So basically, not bad. Critics seem to like this movie more than they liked Rise of Skywalker, but less than they liked The Last Jedi or Solo, which seems backwards, but whatever. Meanwhile, audiences are responding to this film similarly to how they responded to Rogue One and The Force Awakens. Across the Star Wars filmography, there is already such a wide range of responses, highs and lows, and you'll see some pretty significant disparities between critic and audience responses. So, compared to all of that history, The Mandalorian and Grogu is holding its own, more or less. Nothing staggeringly fantastic or mind-blowing, but enjoyable and very refreshing considering that we've been forced to experience Star Wars from our couches for the past 7 years. I made a video a little while ago talking about the sort of lacking expectations when it came to this movie, particularly when it comes to the box office. But just as I was hoping, The Mandalorian and Grogu is actually performing better than was anticipated. Originally, it was projected to perform worse than Solo: A Star Wars Story did in 2018, but now actually it's performing similarly. And box office analysts are saying that the second weekend is going to be incredibly important and could see a significant jump in box office numbers. But enough about the box office and the general consensus. I want to give you my review. 3 things stood out to me in a positive way: the action, the music, and Din Djarin and Grogu's evolving partnership. The fight scenes really gave us a variety of weaponry, stakes, and styles that made me excited every time the scene intensified. I mean, this is a character whose religion revolves around weapons, and I think they really explored that to the max, which I really enjoyed. I feel like seeing Din Djarin being put in all these different scenarios with different weapons that we've never seen him wield before, and yet he's doing it expertly, kind of just gives us a physical example of the Mandalorian Creed backstory, of just how much of their culture and upbringing revolves around understanding weapons as like an extension of self. We're so used to getting lightsaber combat when it comes to the cinematic universe, so seeing blasters and blades, swords, spears, axes, grenades, etc., kind of play out in these prolonged fight scenes was really cool and incredible. I also really, really loved, and we get a little bit of this in the show, but we saw even more of it play out on screen, of how Beskar armor itself is used as a weapon. Like, someone goes to throw a punch at the Mandalorian and he throws, like, his helmet right back because he knows it's going to hurt the other person more than it's going to hurt him. Brilliant. It was so fun to see that play out in the fight choreography. You can just tell that so much attention and care was put into these fight scenes, like The Last Jedi could never. And it paid off. I mean, just an example of how much work goes into the action of the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian himself, yes, is played by Pedro Pascal, but his physicality and the action scenes are played out by like 2 to 3 different stunt guys, and it has been this way since season 1. I've also really appreciated how they have highlighted that fact and these people during the press tour for this film. So the action I really loved. Like, he is a badass bounty hunter from a Mandalorian creed that revolves around weapons, and they just let him be that for so much of the film. And watching Grogu's evolving role within the action was so cool. He didn't feel out of place or in the way in these action scenes. Like, Grogu as a character kind of knew when to step in and when to step back. And it didn't feel like they were just doing that to make a scene more convenient for themselves, but it felt like it came from a place of understanding between the characters, from their history, and trust conveyed through their actions. I mean, so much was conveyed through these little actions and decisions. And this is like not really a spoiler, but a little thing that happened is like there's one scene where Grogu's like tapping on his helmet trying to get his attention. And it's something so small, but we haven't really seen that before. And it shows that Grogu has a changing role and perspective and understanding of the action that's going on around him. We also get to see Grogu on his own a little bit in this, and I Loved that. Particularly because the puppetry was so good. Like, it made me think of Labyrinth and the Dark Crystal. Watching him just explore his environment and seeing the filmmakers not only testing the limits of the character, but like technically testing their limits with this puppet. And in that whole sequence, I think you can kind of see how Grogu is incorporating not just his training through his Mandalorian apprenticeship, but he still has a lot of that Jedi knowledge that he is using and how he approaches problem solving. And the music, don't get me started. Oh my gosh. It was so good. Ludwig Göransson brought his A game to this movie. I went with both of my roommates and we were literally like headbanging in our seats. It was so good. As soon as I got home, like I started adding these tracks to my playlist. They were amazing. The music complemented the visuals and emphasized the action and really illuminated these different emotional tones in such a beautiful way. And of course, with Star Wars revolving around iconic scores, it used nostalgia to its advantage within the score. Listen to the song that he did for the planet. I know it's not Shikari. It's so good. It's so good. So those were like the 3 highlights for me. The action was great. I loved watching how Grogu and the Mandalorian's dynamic was changing and evolving. And the music was fantastic.
So I just got back from seeing The Mandalorian and Grogu for a second time. And it was even better the second time, but there was one specific thing that I noticed this time that I did not notice on the first watch, and that was the changing aspect ratio. The first time that I noticed it was during the spaceship fight on Shikari when they captured Coin, and it really just broadens your horizons for that entire scene, and they do it for some of the other fight scenes, but not all of them. So it was very interesting. It just shows that there's a lot of attention to detail, and it makes me want to watch it yet again.
All that being said, the movie definitely was not perfect. There were a few points where the writing in particular felt kind of weak and repetitive. There was one scene in particular where he's talking to this kind of like gangster overlord on Shikari, and it genuinely felt like the conversation like went in a few circles before it ended. Like, was there a minimum word count you were trying to meet? Because that scene could have been shorter if you didn't have any other words to contribute. It also felt like there were some emotional moments in the film that they could have capitalized on, and they didn't. Din Djarin and Grogu's relationship is just an automatic, like, heartstring plucker. And I felt like they didn't utilize it half as much as they could have. But, you know, what words didn't convey very well throughout the movie, I still think actions did. Like, their body language and their interactions and their fighting style together conveyed a lot emotionally that words didn't. So, you know, pros and cons, but overall, I just thought it was a really good experience. So now let's take a look at what the critics had to say. One review says, despite its deficiencies, Star Wars fans will enjoy the movie because it respects the franchise and the audience. Yeah, like I think so. And you know what? One thing that I thought was respectful, I guess in a way, at least in my opinion, is you did not have to have like binged all of the show and 7 other shows to have watched and understood that movie. Like, yes, you probably want to know some basics, but it didn't require you to do a ton of homework. Exhibit A, I have not really watched a lot of Rebels. Hate to say it, not for me. Clone Wars, yes. Rebels, no. And Zeb is a character that's present through a lot of this. And, like, I knew who he was, sort of, but, like, I didn't feel like I needed to have done my homework to understand why he was there. They didn't make that big of a deal out of it, you know? I think that's respectful. Like, you turn around and Marvel is putting these movies out that you have to have watched 3 movies and 7 shows to understand what's happening on screen. I find that disrespectful to me as an audience. Don't make me do homework. I'm here to have a good time. Don't make me do that. Here's a review that kind of reinforces that. One of the most refreshing things about Star Wars, The Mandalorian and Grogu, despite being part of one of the biggest franchises in the world, is how standalone it is. Exactly! Like, it can be part of a franchise and still be a singular experience, where your story is fully encapsulated within those 2 hours. We need more of that. Make going to the theater easier, please. This review simply says, this is not the way. Okay. There's plenty of action, visual razzle-dazzle, and cute aliens to spare in The Mandalorian and Grogu. But if you're looking for involving human drama, that's in a galaxy far, far away. Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of what I felt too, that there's a lot of really, really deep emotional themes present in Star Wars, and there always have been. This one just didn't touch it very much. This review says, to paraphrase an old Jedi Master, this isn't the Star Wars cinematic experience you are looking for. It's television binge watching at the movies. So I have seen some people saying stuff along this line so that it just felt like one really long episode of The Mandalorian. However, is it really the worst thing? I definitely saw a lot of structural similarities between the show and the movie, but I think as far as like stakes and scale, it was on a very different level. Also, that being said, The Mandalorian is known as a character, but also it is kind of known for its structure and approach to its story. I think they had to stick with it to some degree. You know, maybe that's just me. When it comes to reinvigorating the Star Wars series, this is not the way. This is where I really want to know other people's response after watching this movie. Do you think that it has, like, reinvigorated anything? Is that what you were hoping for from this movie? I don't think I was. Like, it's The Mandalorian. It's nothing new. I don't think they were trying to do something new. I think the goal here was just to get it back in theaters, and that's all I was really hoping for. A good Star Wars theater experience is what I wanted out of this movie, and that's what I got. So if you're looking for that kind of theater experience, definitely give this a watch. And even if you're not a huge fan of The Mandalorian, or this wasn't exactly your kind of a movie, so you're not sure if you want to see it, whatever it is, if you're at all interested in Star Wars continuing to be in theaters, then please go see this movie. Like, I cannot stress this enough. Critical success has never really been important for Star Wars, all right? We have seen critics hate Star Wars movies, audiences hate Star Wars movies, and then turn around and love it on the next one, and back and forth and back and forth. The important thing, especially with Disney, is that it's making money, okay? If we can show them that, yeah, we're still willing to spend money on experiencing Star Wars in theaters, hopefully we will redirect towards that instead of continuing just to get a bunch of TV shows that are all consistently declining in quality. So that's what I thought, that's what the critics thought, and that's my opinion on whether or not you should go see it. Anyways, my bad for not posting anything for like 2 weeks. I did not expect the last video that I posted to do very well at all, and it did very well, actually. So thank you to everyone who was like sharing their opinions with me. I really, really appreciated that, and that was really cool. But terrible timing on my part for video to do well, because I was actually in and out of town for the past 2 weeks. I was working on a shoot for a Revolutionary War reenactment documentary, and did not have time to really go to the movies much less film and edit a video about them. But now I'm back at home, and I'm gonna try my best to keep up with this even as, you know, I start working on the editing process for this documentary. But yeah, thanks.